with the La Plata Basin, we are talking about transboundary basins, and we have worked with other transboundary basins with this particular tool in Southeast Asia and Africa, for instance. And the reason why I'm here is to see if there is opportunity to collaborate and support the activities of the Commission with the Freshwater Health Index. And because it's after lunch, I wanted to ask you all to open up this website, if you can. And you can use your cell phone, or you can go directly to this website. And this is, is it working? And this is a survey that we usually use for the tool. So what we are going to do, you are going to answer just a few questions about different ecosystem services. So I'm going to ask you to tell me which ecosystem services or the benefits that nature provides us are more important to you. So if you go to this website, there is a place to put this code here. And then your country, Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, and Bolivia. How many people are there? Okay, so I'm gonna give a little bit of more minute. And this, oh, I'm sorry. So the page that you open up, you can choose between Portuguese and Spanish. Yeah, so whatever language you prefer. So choose that one. And then it's going to open up here. Yes, thank you. Hands too. So you choose the language. So there is English or Spanish and Portuguese. Oh, sorry. Then you click on Pesquisa de pesos dos indicadores. And then you have to put the code. Got it? Oh, I'm sorry. Pesquisa de pesos. Sí. And there are some definitions that you can read. So you're gonna open up, and you can open up Perry if you yeah, and share your screen. I think that's gonna be easier. We are trying. I'm gonna try to show the results live, but I'm not sure how much time I'm gonna have for that. So no. Did you? So the survey has two parts. One is for ecosystem services, and the other one is for to stop. Don't do the governance part. So you will be asked about, so which group of services or benefits is more important to you? Provisioning services or cultural services, for instance. And then you have to provide how much more important that particular service is to you. So it's just on a scale. Okay, so I apparently I cannot show here, so I'm sorry. So if you have any questions, just ask. I'm gonna give you maybe 3 minutes to complete the session. Perry, could you just put back on? Thank you. So it's not sharing. It's 7. That's fine. 7690005. 76. Is it working? 76. There it is. Oh, okay. So 769005. So this is the one in English. So if you click here, Perry, please, indicator. And then the code, so 769005. No, you have, yeah. But that's fine. Yeah, you can leave it blank. Any questions? Did you finish? Okay. You can, don't add notes. Yeah, don't need to worry about notes only. You have to choose, yeah. Yeah, wait.
I can change cultural rates.
Precisa, you have to move, and it's automatic because depending on the weight that you gave to the first one and the second one is not gonna allow you if the math doesn't it doesn't match up. 10 is maximum, so it's one time or 10 times more important. So when you realize that the service, ecosystem services part ended, just keep clicking next. Don't need to do the rest of the survey, and then you submit. Just maybe 2 more minutes. More questions? Completed? Has anyone completed? Yes. I got 1 completed. Raise your hand, completed. 2. Okay, so people were completing. Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, completed. Completed, okay. Perfect. So 1 more minute. Just make sure that you click submit. So I think I'm gonna move on given the time. I do want to present all my slides here, and I'm kind of really short in time. So if you don't finish, you can finish later, and then we can revisit the results later on. So thank you, Perry. So what the Freshwater Health Index is, in a very few words, we like to say that the Freshwater Health Index is a standardized way to put multiple stakeholders on the same page in relation to the trade-offs associated with water resource management. And how do we do that? We have developed a composite indicator system as the basis to convene and discuss different stakeholders from a particular basin to look together on the priorities of the basin. And this is how the Freshwater Health Index looks like. So it's a composite indicator system with 3 components. So we have a ecosystem vitality component, ecosystem services component, and governance and stakeholder component. And what you are seeing here is the multitude of indicators that we are analyzing for each of the components here. So we have inner indicators and outer indicators. And what we calculate are the outer indicators here, and the numbers are aggregated into different levels until we get the final score for each of the component here. In the FHI, we have the ecosystem vitality, the ecosystems at the center, because they are the ones providing the ecosystem services. But the management and the sustainability of the benefits that we get from aquatic ecosystems and other systems are dependent on the governance, water governance system in place. So the FHI was one of the first indicator systems to actually include governance as part of the structure that we have in our framework. So just going into a little bit more detail, for this particular example, I think we have, it's for Alto Mayo in Peru. So essentially what we are saying here is that there is a good provision of ecosystem services. The scale goes from 0 to 100, 100 meaning that it's the maximum health, the best health that you can get. So there is a good provision of ecosystem services. The ecosystem vitality is still very good. So we can tell that there is the provision of ecosystem services is likely sustainable in the short and medium term, but there is a problem with the governance. So the stakeholders can understand where the priorities of the system are. So in the case of Alto Mayo here, we have yellow, so blue is more health and yellow, red, less health. So the priorities here would be taking care of biodiversity, particularly invasive species, for instance. And for the services, they need to take care of regulation of sediments. And of course, there are aspects of governance that they need to look at more closely in order to be able to provide the services that the population needs. And what we have seen with the stakeholder is, because we have a system that provides information, standardized information, stakeholders are talking on the same page, is the same language. People understand the numbers and they understand the indicators. Different stakeholders understand that, and they can talk on the same language. Sometimes when you have, for instance, what is common to see are different reports on different themes, and managers, they have to digest all that information. And here, what we are trying to do is summarizing the important information so priorities can be highlighted and actions can be taken in that direction. And there is, here, I just wanted to highlight some links with the La Plata plan strategic action plans. So over there, there's talk about integrated water resource management. So incorporating all of these indicators, we are providing a platform to manage the system more sustainably. And we have components for water balance, water quality, groundwater, biodiversity being considered at the same time. And also you can access information about extreme hydrologic events, sedimentation, loss of water quality, and conflicts for water. So I think because we don't have time, I'm going to leave the results for the discussion section. But I'm going to show you how we use the information that I just collected with you. So here you can see that, for instance, the inner circle, we have two assessments of ecosystem services in two different basins. You can see that the inner circles are a little bit different. The wedges are different. So in the lower Mekong, for instance, the stakeholders, they think that the different services or group of services have a similar relative importance. Whereas in China, in the Dongjiang, provisioning services are much more important for stakeholders, and water supply reliability, if the amount of water is sufficient to attend the demand, is the most important services for that particular group of stakeholders. So water management can be done taking also into consideration the importance that different services have for that particular community. We also apply a survey related to water governance to understand, to have the results that I showed you for that component on governance and stakeholders. And that is a perception survey. So I could apply the survey to this group here, and we would use this information to actually compose the number that we have that. So the information is directly used in the freshwater health index. And as much as many people, we need a good amount of people to be filling out the surveys, so we have a good representation of what the perception that people have on governance is for that particular basin. And then water management can take that into consideration. Sometimes, for instance, for Latin America, it's really common to see the priorities are lack of finance or lack of capacity. So there is a need to really focus on those two topics to actually improve the management, the sustainable management of the basin. We suggest and we recommend that local data and official data are used as much as possible to have a fine scale assessment. And with that, we want to ensure legitimacy. We want to pinpoint areas of concern very specifically, and we can target recommendations more effectively. And here is just one example showing one of the results that I'm not going to go over the details, but I just wanted to point out that we are providing information for a basin in a very fine scale here. This is a deviation of natural flow. How much of the discharge is far from what it was supposed to be under natural conditions? So we are seeing here that this stretch of the river, the Sekong, it has a highly modified flow regime. However, as we know, we always face challenges having fine data and local data, and that's where remote sensing is really helpful, and how our relationship with NASA came together. It has been instrumental to us to work with NASA, so we could use many of the data and the analysis that NASA has been showing you to actually calculate some of the indicators of the FHI. And we know that for transboundary setting, one of the key issues, and it was highlighted here today, one of the key issues is sharing data. So using, as I think John Grande today said, one of the issues is to have this transparency, is to have this flow of the standardization of data. So we do we think that with the incorporation of remote sensing data with the FHI, you can have a clear or transparency on which data is being used and how is being used. So in addition to calculate the indicators, we have partnered with NASA to not only do the calculation, but also work with us at the meetings that we convene for the FHI. Another way that modeling and remote sensing is important for the FHI is for developing scenarios. So we do, for decision-making process, we know how important modeling scenarios is. And we do that. We usually calculate future scenarios for climate change and land use change. And we know that most of the decisions are taken based on these projections. And we call it the indicators for the future. And in this particular case here, I have the flow connectivity and dam development for the 3S basin in the lower Mekong, showing you the existing number of dams and how they were affecting the connectivity of the basin, how dissected the drainage network is, and how that can influence biodiversity and stream and fish migration. And then with the projected number of dams that they wanted to construct in the basin would decrease a lot the indicator, and more than half of the basin would be disconnected. So you can imagine the implication of this for the sustainability of the basin and other important variables like biodiversity. Within the work with the Lower Mekong, just wanted to highlight a recent paper. Ibrahim here was the lead author, so he can talk much more about this. But we use the FHI together with the work with NASA to diagnose challenges and setting priorities for sustainable water resource management in the Lower Mekong. So we combine the FHI, which is a socio-ecological approach, with remote sensing and in situ data, hydrologic data, climate models, and also social surveys. And we analyze how climate change and dam development would impact the basin. And what it was found is that climate change will lead to increasing the precipitation, which will then impact or will require the dam operation system to change because of low flows, from maintaining low flows to reducing flood hazards. But what was important is that to understand that the water governance system in place wasn't prepared to actually take action on this challenge that was identified. So stakeholder engagement is definitely, it's an essential part of the assessment with the FHI. So we convene stakeholders from a particular basin in usually 3 times throughout the course of the development of the tool. So we like to co-produce, co-calculate the indicators with the stakeholders. So we are always in contact with them. We first do the surveys in a meeting, and then the subsequent meetings are, we have the goals to, for instance, validate the results, share with them what is being highlighted as a priority. We want to validate if what we are finding is correct. And we want to definitely make sure that the stakeholders know how to use the information that is being provided to decision making. This is just a map, and it's not a complete map of the basins that we have applied, the FHI. We have worked in a variety of landscapes from very urbanized systems to preserved systems. We have more places in Brazil now here, hopefully La Plata. And I also just wanted to highlight the work that we did in Latin America, because we published this paper talking about the relationship between the FHI and integrated watershed management. So here you have the results for the 3 basins that we worked, but what we learned from this experience is that the deep engagement that is promoted with the FHI with the stakeholders has been key to clarify the linkages and feedbacks between biophysical system and ecosystem services. And that has facilitated cooperation, identification of problems and solutions, and agreement on common objectives. So we believe that by providing the same language and easy to understand language, you can facilitate discussions more effectively. And this is just wanted to highlight the work that we did at the Cubango-Okavango Basin. This is a basin, this is the delta of the Okavango, the largest freshwater delta in the world, and we apply the FHI for the headwaters. We are now working to apply the freshwater health index for the rest of the basin. But over there, we have been engaged in a similar watershed commission as the CIC. So we are working directly with the OCOCOM, and we were endorsed by the 3 countries to apply the FHI and to use the FHI as the state of the basin report for that particular basin. And I wanted to highlight the similarities with the action plan that you have for La Plata, with teams related to water resource management, land management, and environment and biodiversity. These are the results that we saw there. So it's a unique system where the ecosystem vitality is great, but the ecosystem services are not not where we would like to be. And the challenge is always governance, and everywhere that we have worked. And this is our colleague Ibrahim providing a training during the last workshop that we did with Namibia and Botswana stakeholders. We are at the point that we are investing a lot in getting more users to use the FHI. So we do have a desktop tool. You can go to our website and download the tool and play with it to calculate the indicators. We have tutorials. And we also have a partner with IHD Delft, the water resource, the water center there, on free online courses on freshwater health. And the FHI was the tool that we used to talk about freshwater health. And again, links are provided, and the presentations are provided in English, in Spanish and Portuguese as well at the folder. How are we in time? Unfortunately, no time. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to go over this, but to highlight the web tools that we have as well. So we not only have the desktop tool, but we do have web tools which use a similar language that we have been using with Jupyter to calculate a few indicators of the FHI. So you can definitely work with it if you have time. And I think this is about it. Thank you so much for your attention. I am leaving today, unfortunately. I wish I could stay to talk to the other people that I haven't talked today, but I'm leaving. I would like to circulate just the fact sheet of the Freshwater Health Index with in Portuguese and Spanish. So you can just grab one, and my email is here. Maybe not, it's mbezerra@conservation.org. Maybe the color choice wasn't great, but I'm happy to answer any questions when we break. Thank you.